Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's on my Garden. Okay, so moving on to the basil. So with herbs that are fast growing, you know, these sort of soft herbs, there's no real shortcut. Now normal sort of herbs like mint and, you know, the typical ones you get in Britain, they want reasonably sort of dry and arid soil, where these more sort of Mediterranean type herbs, they want a reasonably rich soil and they grow quite quickly. So these are like annual herbs, if you like, so they always grow from seed. Now there's no shortcut with this. I've got to use a nice reasonable sized pot like this with you know, full of good compost. What I want to do is plant these four, and then I'm not going to transplant them or anything. I'm basically just going to let them grow in here. So what I'm going to do is broadcast the seed on here and then just let them grow in the pot. What you can do with basil, which is what I suggest you do, is you can put these pots amongst the tomato plants in the greenhouse, because they'll grow quite well with tomatoes. And what I recommend you do is do like a succession. So plant these sort of four out, and then say in about a month's time do another 4 pots. So probably don't need that many seeds. So as you can see, that's what the seeds look like, really small, little black. And all I'm going to do is sprinkle the seeds on the top like that. The germination rate of these is reasonably good. Right, okay, so that's all I need really. I can save the rest of these seeds for the next one, next planting. Now what I recommend you do now is do not overwater these. What you want to do is keep them moist but not soaking wet, because you're putting them straight into a big pot like this. You're in danger of overwatering them. So what you need to do is just put a sprinkler of compost over the top like that. You literally just need to cover them. I always say that, you know, you can see how much you need to cover seeds by how big they are. The larger the seeds, the deeper they need to go. So any really small seed needs to be literally on the surface of the compost. The only reason I put compost on the top is to stop, when I water them, is to stop them kind of being dislodged from the compost and to make sure that they sort of stay in the, you know, in the compost and in contact with the water. Now I've only tapped them down really lightly. Also I need to put a quick label in all four, so that's basil in that one. And then basically all I need to do then is keep these sort of moist, so water them, and then when you start to see the surface drying out, just give them a little bit more water. Of course the seeds are only in the top sort of part of the pot, so you don't need to soak the whole pot. So you just need to put enough water in to keep the seeds moist, but obviously because the seeds are at the top, that's where the evaporation is going to occur, so it's going to dry it at the top, but you don't need to soak the entire pot, is what I'm saying. So just a little bit of water, little and often with these. Don't soak them, because the seed will be sitting in water then and it'll potentially damage the seed. So that's the basil. The coriander is done in exactly the same way as that, no different. Some pots like this, and then put some compost in exactly the same way, sprinkle the seed on the top, and then that's your coriander. both the basil and the coriander can be grown outside, but I recommend that you grow it inside. The flavour's better and the leaves are more succulent. So I recommend that you plant them in a pot and keep them indoors. But as I say, you can grow them outside. If you've not got a windowsill that you can grow them on, or a greenhouse, then you can grow them outside. So, you know, do what you can. Right, sunflowers. Sunflowers germinate really easily. You know, there's a with sunflowers you can't go wrong really. They germinate really easily, and they you know, grow off really quickly. What I suggest you do is put a row of pots like this. I'll just put them in this tray just to demonstrate to you. Put one seed in each tray, because in each pot, sorry. And again, sunflower seeds do vary in size, but they're all pretty much the same. I'll just show you these. These are from Wilco's, they're only 50p, so as you can see you get plenty of seed. Again with sunflowers, those are the seed. Obviously you get some black ones, you get black and white ones, these are white ones. You want to feel that there's actual kernel inside there. Now with your finger on the side, push them in about an inch or so, like that. You don't have to be too precise about this. Push them in like that. And then what I find, all you need to do that seems a bit flat, so I'm going to put a second on it. What you need to do is just tap them like that, and then with another pot just go back over as quick as that, and that's done. What you need to do now is put a label and say giant sunflower. Once they're done, water them well. Again, this is another seed that's got quite a hard shell to it, so you need to sort of soften the shell so it can germinate, and then leave them in a sunny, warm position, and then as soon as they've got to about, I don't know, 6 to 9 inches high, you can then plant them out into the garden in a nice sunny position, and they'll grow away and give you plenty of joy. So that's sunflowers for you. Okay, so I'm now going to put the potatoes in. I've got the ground dug already. If you can't go out to garden centres or shops or anything like that to get your seed potatoes, all I do every year is I save all the small potatoes like this. So I've got a sack here, as you can see, which is basically full of small potatoes which are too small to you know, to eat. And all we basically do is just leave them in there, and then as you can see, they start to sprout. Now, it doesn't really matter what the size of the potato is. Really, the only thing that you need are the eyes here. So you know, as long as you've got some eyes. If you want to put you know, 2 small potatoes in, so if you've only got 1 eye on a potato, you know, there's no reason why you can't put 2 potatoes in the same hole, so you get 3 or 4 eyes in there. And then you know, just plant them about sort of 9 or so inches deep in the ground, and then bank them up, and then you know, you can get you know, use your potato. I mean, this one for example, you know, that's a really small potato there. You know, it's got a good sort of root and an eye on it there, so that'll grow quite nicely. So all I do is I basically save all the small ones from the year before like this, and then plant them again. So this is a variety called Kestrel, and these are the only ones that I grow. They're actually second early, but I grow these like a main crop, and I get potatoes that are, you know, good baking sized potatoes, all the way down to sort of small ones like this. And I typically save the small ones, and then, you know, sort of any sort of this big, or, you know, as big as a tennis ball or bigger, we typically eat, and then I save the small ones. So I'll just put these in now, and I'll show you when I've got it finished. Okay, so that's the first row of potatoes in. So as you can see, I've scored a line with a piece of string, and then dug a hole which is about 9 inches deep, and then in each one I've put either 1 or 2 potatoes. If there's only 2 eyes on a potato, then what I'll do is I'll put in. So basically what I do, because I'm growing these as a main crop, I grow them about 2 foot apart on the rows, 2.5 foot apart, and then I plant one plant every about 18 inches, one potato every 18 inches. As I say, what I'm looking for is potatoes with 3 eyes on. Any more I'll knock them off. If there's a potato with only 2 eyes on, then I'll put a second potato in, like that one there. You can see that one's got 2 on it, that one's got 1 on it, so I end up with 3 eyes per hole, if you like. Now all I need to do is get the hoe and hoe this up so it looks like those rows over there. And then I'll just basically move this thing down 2 foot and keep going as I put the rows of potatoes. So I'll hoe these up and I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. Okay, so one important thing with potatoes is because they're a root crop, it's really important that you get the ground right. So this ground's been dug over, it's had plenty of chicken manure and grass cuttings and all that kind of stuff put in. It's weed free and it's been rotivated, so it's nice. It's really nice, friable. As you can see, I can get my hand right in there, so it's all really nice and loose. That's exactly what you're looking for, and then you know that your potatoes will grow well. Now when you're hoeing them up, you want to keep the ground as loose as possible so the potatoes can grow up easily, and then what you want to do is try and get as much carbon matter like straw or anything like that in the ground as you can, which is water retentive, and that'll keep the moisture in the ground, which is exactly what potatoes need to grow well. If it does dry out, obviously, you know, you can water between the rows, but you know, you want to try and keep the ground as moist as you possibly can do, because potatoes are sort of 90% water, so that's what you need, lots of water in the ground. So grow potatoes in the you know, sort of the dampest part of your allotment or garden, and then you're likely to get a good crop. So that's the first row. As I say, I'll just hoe that up now and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so that's the first row hoed up. So what I've done now is move the string down 2 foot. So I've got a measuring stick here, which is just over 2 foot long. All I need to do now is go along, do exactly the same again, put 1 or 2 potatoes in every about 18 inches going down the row, then hoe it up, and I'll just work my way down the allotment until I've got my 10 rows of potatoes in. Okay, so onto the verbena to carry on from last time. Now this is from Johnson's. Now verbena is a beautiful plant. It's really good, I find, to put verbena by lavender, because what you get is the lavender sits at around 2 foot high and then the verbena grows through it. Verbena is typically about 3 foot high, so what you get is the lavender, and then sticking out to the top you get these beautiful lavender or sort of purple flowers coming out the top. Now the seed is really small, and I don't think there's much seed in this particular packet. So what I'm going to do is sow them in these little plugs, and then there's going to be like, I don't know, a few plants in each one. Then I can literally just take the plugs out and bob them straight in the ground, and that should be the easiest and probably the most economic with regard to the potting compost, which is what I'm trying to save on now. As I say, the seed is really small. You know, there's not much to it at all. It's quite a fine seed, almost like a dust really. So what you need to do is to get the compost in the tubs like that. Now I've already sort of squashed it down already, and then take off the excess, put it back in the bag. And then what I'm going to do is just put an indent in each one of the little seed packets like that, seed pockets like that. So the seeds are going to go in. I don't know if you can see that, but the seeds are going to sit in this little sort of hole that I've generated with my finger. Let's put a bit more in that one. And then so when the seed comes out, I can just sprinkle it in. It's going to go into the middle of the pot where it's going to be the moistest. Right, so I'll just get the seed out so you can actually see what it looks like. And there's not very many at all here. So I'm just going to put 1 or 2 in each one. So that's the actual seed, I don't know if you can see that. So what I'm going to do is just very carefully pinch. I've got 2 or 3 seeds into each one like that. Now you can get away with not actually covering these. You can just sort of spray them with a little bit of water to start them off. But what I'm going to do is just put a very small amount of compost over the top, just to cover them. As I say, there's about 2 or 3 seeds going in each one here. Almost finished. I'll say 2 or 3, it's probably more like 3 or 4 to be honest. Right, so I'm actually going to say that little bit of seed there. Let's put that in next year. Right, okay. So all I'm going to do now, keeping a bit of dried compost is actually good for this. But what you can actually do is just sort of sprinkle over from a reasonable height. Now this is where the sort of the hole comes into its own really, because what you want to do is only put a very, very small amount of compost, and then just by rubbing your hand over like that, what it'll actually do is basically fill the hole. So now the seeds are going to be, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 millimetres deep in compost. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just water that, put a label in, water that, and I'll show you those in a couple of weeks' time when they start to come up. Okay, just putting the last few on. As you can see, this ground here, what I've done is rotivated it all over this morning. So the ground's really nice and friable, as you can see. Now this is the best way to put onions in. The ground's got to be rotivated the same day, I find, and then as the ground sinks, obviously when it settles, the onions then sort of come to the top. So what you're looking for at your onion sets is a nice size onion set. You don't want to go, ironically, you don't want to go too big. What you want to do is something like that is about right. Check that it hasn't got any canker or rot on it or anything like that. But if you go for ones that are too big, what you find is they can bolt. So the larger the onion, that one's probably about as big as you want to go. The larger the onion is, the more chance there is of it actually bolting, in other words running to seed on you. So because this ground's nice and deep, what I can just do is nice and loose, what I can do is just literally push them in. So what I've got is my finger like that, so I'm not damaging the roots of the set, and pushing them in like that with my fingers. And what you want to do is get it so it's like that, so it's just about 1 inch or so below the level of the ground, and then as the ground settles, the onion will then sort of become exposed. Obviously root down, like that one isn't, like that. And then as this all settles down, as I said, they'll become exposed. If the ground is a little bit harder, what you need to do is just sort of loosen it up with your trowel like that, where you're going to put your raw onions in, and then just sort of finger either side so you don't damage the set, because what you can do is you can actually damage the bit where the roots come out. So if you've not put onions in before, obviously the pointy end is where it'll grow from, which is that end there, and then the flatter end there, you can actually see where the roots are going to come there. So just push it in with your hand like that. Now what you can get sometimes is birds pull them out because they think the top of them is a worm or something like that. So it's within your interest to try and get them as far in as you can. Don't worry about, if you just rotivate it like I have, don't worry about them sort of being buried, because the ground will settle. As I said, they'll soon become exposed. Again, so that's what the onions look like. So I'll just finish off the row here, and I'm just putting about 300 onions in here. Okay, just do a quick tour of the allotment whilst there's nobody up here. Because we've had this corona virus going about, the allotments have been quite full over the past couple of weeks, and they're a lot more advanced than they are normally, but unfortunately there's been loads of people up here, so I've not been able to do a tour video as of yet. But anyway, I'll just quickly explain what's going on in the greenhouse and the rest of the allotment so you can see how I've been getting on. These are some peppers that I put in now. They've actually been in about 2 weeks now. I've got one cayenne pepper coming up at the back there, and I've got some, these are sweet peppers, multicoloured ones, jalapeno, and another load of sweet pepper, Romano horns, with those are like the horn shaped ones. You saw me putting the onions in and the various other bits and bobs. So these are the tomatoes, etc., and the calabrese, the kale, and some more red onions, and the verbena. This is the asparagus that I grew last year from seed. As you can see, it's doing quite well. I'll show you the stuff that I grew the year before that, which I'm about to put on the ground. Actually, that's in the other greenhouse, but as you can see, these are doing quite well now. So what I need to do with these is pot them up into larger pots, something pot about this big, in the next few weeks. Some more tomatoes. Obviously, we've got the sunflowers, and these are the courgettes, the butternut squashes, and the pumpkins. And I've also put in some asters and some lobelia as well at the front. But obviously, all of those need to come up. It's reasonably cool at the moment. It's I don't know what the temperature is. It's 20 something, less than 20. It feels less than 20 anyway. But it's getting a bit dark. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly take you around the allotment. Right, so we've got loads of comfrey tea, as you can see here, that was made from last year. So the comfrey's growing here. Now I use this to fertilise the tomatoes and stuff. So I've got a good, I don't know, 15 bottles full there, and it's still sort of coming out. You can see that's sort of been making in there. So what I need to do now, this is starting to come into buds before it seeds everywhere. I need to cut all that down and get that in there and make a new batch. But obviously I've got plenty here, so I'll probably be giving some of that away to my friends, so they can fertilise their greenhouses with. The hollyhocks are starting to come up, as you can see, and the mint has started to come up here in the lemon balm. Loads of frogs at the moment. The sage plant looking a bit sorry for itself at the moment, but the oregano here at the front and over there's doing alright. The rosemary's doing okay, and the catmint as well. I've got this bucket here for frogs. I keep getting frogs coming in, so I've made a little temporary sort of pond for them, if you like, bucket pond. In this greenhouse we've not got much going on at the moment. What I have already done is I've already dug all of the borders out both sides, and I've replaced that with new soil from the garden. I'll enrich that with some chicken manure and dig that over with some grass cuttings as well, just before I put the tomato plants in. And you can see I'm just part way through cleaning up in here. I've basically been cutting back the grapevine. This has had a major league haircut over the past week to try and get it all down, because it was growing absolutely crazy in here. So it was cutting all the light out last year, and so I've caught it really early, and I've cut it quite far back. But you can see I've already got the startings of little bunches of grapes in there. I don't know if you can see that there, and there's another one here just starting there. They're all the way along really. I've got some more here. So what I'll need to do is wait till they've developed a little bit further, and then I'll be sort of thinning them out so I've not got too many. But they're all the way along it really. There's startings there. You can just see one there just starting there. But that's the great one. So anyway, these are the asparagus that I grew. Oh, it's too dark, hang on. These are the asparagus that I grew last year. So that's one, and that's the other one. Now I gave loads away to a friend, so I've only got these two left because I didn't really need them. But you can see they're a lot thicker now. They're more like sort of 3 or 4 millimeters across. So what I'll do is I'll put them in the ground in a moment. I'll show you where I've got a space, basically where the asparagus bed is. And this is a fuchsia that you can just see is just starting to come now. You can just see sort of sprouts start to come. So I'll take some cuttings off that in a couple of weeks' time when it's grown up. But I've just left these in here for now. So there's not a lot going on in this greenhouse, but this will look a lot better in a couple of weeks' time as soon as I start getting all the beans in and all the rest of it. So this will be a lot more busier in here. Right, okay. So one project that I have done this year is this new strawberry bed. So this is where I used to grow carrots and that. So what I've actually done is I've put all of the old soil out of this greenhouse into here, dug it all over really well, and I've planted all of the strawberry plants that I took last year. So I've filled that with strawberry plants. They've taken really well. I've been watering that every day, and hopefully, I know you're not supposed to get strawberries off the first year when you put the plants in, but I'm hoping, as we've got some flowers over here, as you can see, I'm hoping we'll get some strawberries off here this year. Those are the hollyhocks that I grew last year, so they'll be going out into the garden in the next few weeks. The chives are growing really well. Now this bit here has had an overall as well. This has been dug over, well not dug over, got all the weeds out and all the rest of it. This is the asparagus bed, and you can just see the asparagus spines here now. These have grown in the last couple of days. We actually cropped them all 2 days ago, and these have all grown in the last couple of days, so I really do need to get on these really. As you can see this, so I'll probably eat these tomorrow. You can see all these here, all these spines down here. So what I did is I've got all of the weed out, and I've put a really light sprinkling of wood chippings over the top, just to hold the weeds back really as a mulch. But that's what the asparagus bed looks like at the moment. And what I'll be doing is looking where there's a space. Obviously I've got, you can see there, I've got a plant there, there's a spine, a spike here, yeah, and there's one here, so there's a space here. So what I'll do is I'll plant, oh there's one there just coming through, so I'll probably plant one of them plants in here and probably one up there to, but I needed to wait until they come out so I could see where the plants were. You can see here there's quite a nice one there just growing. I'll be better showing you this in the daylight, to be honest with you, but obviously there's loads of people up here in the day. Right, so the raspberries have been cut back, and I've been putting the sticks on with them little hooks that I've been put on. What I am going to do is put a second lot at the top, some more hooks at the top like these that I showed you last year, so I can hold the tops back as well. All the trees have been cut back, the espalier trees, they've been cut back, so they're all in around now. This is the old strawberry patch, which I'll be using this year again. And we've got so far 9, excuse the wind, we've got 9 rows of potatoes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, and then there's 3 more down there. The tunnel's been moved from here, where it was last year, so I've just started to dig all this over. But because the ground is so hard, I've decided to let it rain a bit on here, and then I'll dig this over. But basically the gourds are going to go in here, so I don't need to have this too well dug, to be honest with you, because I'm not going to be used as such. I'm just going to be planting the plants along here where I can water them and letting them grow into that area there. So I could get away with potentially not digging this year, but what I do want to do is dig it over like I've started here, and then I can rotate it all. And I've just been burning some cuttings and stuff over there in the incinerator. This is the next 3 rows of potatoes, so I've now got 9 rows of potatoes, and they're all kestrel, which is second is where I grow them as main. I will put 1 more row in there, so I'll end up with 10 rows of potatoes in the end. So I just need to dig this area here, next to the incinerator there, all the way down that side, and put 1 more row in there. The first tunnel, all I've done is just moved it basically. All the ground is dug, ready to go, so this is where all of the large kale and all the broccoli and cabbage is going to go in here. So I've put these paths in here this year because that ground is so hard where I've been walking in the year. I thought if I put this path in here where it's only supported in 3 places in the middle of both ends, this will stop the ground from getting compacted in the year, so I'll be able to dig it over better. These are the grills for the sweet peas, which I've not put in yet, which I really do need to, but I can't find the seed if I'm being brutally honest with you. These are going to go on the end, one there and one there on the outside as they do normally. And I've got my steel posts there ready for the kale. So this has all been dug over. This has all been dug over, rotavated, and is ready to go. Obviously this is where the onions were last year, and the parsnips, and some of the beetroot was in here as well. So that's all now gone. This has all been dug over. So this tunnel's ready to go as soon as the plants have grown and ready to go in, basically. Right. We've still got some spinach from last year. This is one area that I've not yet managed to dig over, but this is where the parsnips will go this year. So at the moment I've got 2 rows of spinach in here. This is perpetual spinach beet, which will grow through the winter and then grows again in the spring. You can see one's gone to seed at the end there, but the rest of it we're picking at the moment. Now this tunnel is looking a bit sorry for itself. This is what I've been working on the last couple of days. So all of this had ripped. I've already sewn up this seam here. As you can see here, this is all ripped over the winter. So basically this is the debris net, and all of the black part has unfortunately sort of perished. So this green nylon bit is still perfectly serviceable, but the black bit here I think is made of cotton or something. I'm not sure if it's nylon or what, but anyway, I'm going along and sewing it with nylon cord. So I'll be sewing this back up, but what I've done is remade these poles today. This one here is a new pole, which basically just bolts in at the top there. The one that was here before had all bent, so I've remade this top post, and I'll be sewing this back over onto this piece like that, so it'll all be good to go. And then in here I'll be growing obviously brassicas, and also in here I'll also be growing some beetroot and some swede, which is another brassica of course, and then I'll need to make a door here as well, so I'll be building a door in the next couple of weeks as well. So that's the first tunnel. Second tunnel, which looks a bit sorry for itself at the moment, but this will be renovated in the next couple of weeks, and I'll show that when it's done. Right, and here I've got 5 rows of onions. There's about 300 onions in here, and then to the next, just to the right of it here, will be some spinach in there, and then this part here, which is not dug yet, I've just put some wood chip, chicken manure and grass cuttings in there. That's where the beans will go, so I'll dig that over just before the beans go in, because it'll be better if the ground's loose for the beans. So I'm just going to cover that with manure and grass cuttings as and when I get them over the next couple of weeks, and then as soon as the beans are ready to go in, I'll dig all that over, rotivate it so it's all nice and loose for the beans to go into, and then that should this should grow away quite nicely. Right, coming up this side here, just quickly show you the rhubarb, which is doing really well. As you can see there, the rhubarb's doing really well this year. We're going to get another good crop of that. Not much to say about the rhubarb really. I've put a load of chicken manure on it over the winter, and also a load of wood chips, so it's had another load of good sort of manure and stuff on top of it, so that should be good enough for that to grow this year. And that's pretty much it. I've still got to clear this part out here, which is still got a bit of weed in it, but I'm probably going to grow in some in here. I'll probably grow some courgettes, and potentially one of the butternut squash plants, or 2 butternut squash plants there, and then the courgette plants here, nicely spread out. And then here I'll grow some spinach and some the parsnips, as I say, and then obviously the second lot of beans will go in here. This is already dug over, ready to go, and then the pumpkins and that will go in here, along with the butternut squashes as well. So it'll be 3 rows of potatoes there. There's going to be another row of potatoes in here, which will be the 10th row, and then get the butternut squashes in there, then we should be ready to go on that. And as you can see, the trees are in full blossom at the moment. So that's a cherry tree in the middle there, and that's a apple tree at the end, and then we've got 2 josterberry bushes, one there and one over there, which are filling up. I need to put a tree at the end there. That's where the pear tree used to be. Unfortunately that died, but I've still not found one that was the same as the one that came out. And this is the other side of the strawberries. As you can see, they're just starting to flower now, so hopefully we should get some strawberries in the next few weeks. And then in this little section here, which has got rubbish in it at the moment, I'm going to dig all this over here, clean all this out. I need to finish cleaning this out here. I've cleaned out up to about there. I need to clean all this weed out here. I'm going to put the red onions in this section here, so I'm just going to have a block of red onions there, so it's close to the water, so I can water them, and so I get some nice big red onions this year. So I'll dig that over, put some chicken manure in, and I'll have a nice little square for onions here. Next year I'll probably put strawberries back here like it was originally, but that's what the allotment looks like on the 15th of April. So, I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Garden.